Good evening and welcome to We the Village, produced by Ron Hall, and I am your host, Sharonda Allen. Today we have with us Denisah Williamson. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
It is so great to have you on. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Denisah Williamson, and I like to make this joke and I say I'm BAR from Newark because I'm born and raised. Okay. So it's like it's a difference. Okay. To me, of being born and raised, and then like maybe you migrated, but to be born there at a local hospital, to be there, to stay there, and to have never gone. So I'm born and raised in Newark.
Right, and I'm from Newark too. Arts High.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous because I don't have like a talent like that, but yeah.
So tell us what high school you went to in Newark.
I went to quite a few high schools in Newark, actually. And I think that that's part of when I say that I'm born and raised in Newark. So I went to Science High School for about 2 years until they got tired of me. And my behaviors that I acted out on. And then I went to West Side until they got tired of me. And there was some more in between. But then I wound up at Clifford J. Scott to be able to finish my high school career out.
So do you think those experiences help you in the work that you do today?
Yes. I'm grateful for them. They were necessary because it gave me a different lens to look at my community. Because if it wasn't for people inside of my community saying, like, you know, asking me better questions, and I started to understand what those questions were, at the time I didn't know I was crying out for help. Like, I wanted somebody to save me. I wanted someone to listen to me. I wanted something, and I was just crying, like, please. And it wasn't like actual tears, but it was my actions, the things that I was doing, the way I was affecting my community. I didn't see it.
Right.
I had a hard time playing the tape out.
Okay. So tell us about your educational background, because I talked about the work you do, but we didn't get deep into it. But tell me about your educational journey.
So my educational journey is a quite unique one. I started off because I have 3 daughters. One is 20, one's 12, and one's 11 months. I know. What happened?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like baby bags and everything. So
I can't do diaper bags again unless it's a grandma diaper bag. That's next. And maybe next 5 years or so, maybe. Yeah,
like I'm looking at that too because my 20-year-old, I'm like, yeah, 5, 8 years.
Yeah.
But so I was a teenage mom.
Okay.
End of teenage years. I was 18 when I had my daughter, and I started off that was the first time I applied to Kane, and I didn't get in.
Oh, okay.
And so I decided to go to Essex County College, and I played some more. I wasn't focused, and then it took me 2 years, and I left and I came back. And when I went back, I went back.
Good.
You know, like my daughter had said some things to me, like, you know, we can't be in college at the same time, Mom. So
I love that.
Yeah, I love her. So when I went back, And I went back and I did my associate's degree in social science with a concentration in criminal justice.
Nice.
And then they told me I had the opportunity to apply to Kane, and I was like, I'm going to get you now.
Now I'm going.
Yeah, I'm going.
You're going to let me in this time, right?
Yeah, and that's what had to happen. So yeah, I got into Kane. And when I got into Kane, my overall GPA was, and I majored in sociology. And because I took over my class from Essex County from when I was playing. So my overall GPA really wasn't high enough because I tried to apply to grad school. Oh, wow. And they were telling me, oh, you might want to take some classes. And they gave me some suggestions and I listened. And I went and got an online degree at Ashford in applied behavioral science to bring my GPA up. Because I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to change lives. I wanted to affect my community. And I knew that this was my window and this was my chance. So I brought my GPA up and I got it to over a 3.0.
Excellent.
Applied to grad school, got in. As a conditional admit though, but like I was saying, I finished grad school with 3.6. So I took the road less traveled, but I traveled it.
And so your bachelor's degree is in?
Sociology and applied behavioral science.
And your master's degree is in?
Social work.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I think that's an important story to tell because, you run into young people to say, I want to give back. I want to be a social worker. I want to do this. I want to do that. Just because you don't make it in that first time you apply, it doesn't mean you give up and say, I can't do it. I won't be able to. No, you continue on. You take those baby steps. You go to Essex and build that GPA and go through the ropes, go through the rigor. Maybe you can cram 4 years into 10. Okay? I made that joke to somebody before that they managed to cram 10 years into 4. But sometimes you have to do that because maybe foundationally we weren't prepared to jump in from high school and do the 4 years and, then do the master's. Sometimes we have to take those baby steps because we have personal growth to deal with. We have personal issues within ourselves, and maybe sometimes our environment and our community wasn't as conducive for us to just go straight through.
It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't. So like part of my story, and everyone that knows me knows, is that I didn't have the typical life. Like both my parents were chemically addicted. And I think that led to a lot of my anger, a lot of my aggression, where like some depressive moods came from, and a lot of like the issues I had growing up. As a clinician and being older, I know that that's where it came from. But at 12 and 13, you don't know.
Right.
So, like not knowing and not having any place to go made it rough.
Right.
And it was unnecessarily hard.
And the beautiful part about your story and your situation is that you found a way to ground yourself, because you could have gotten into that cycle and been a statistic like some other people in Newark who, ended up in the system and couldn't escape and ended up just floundering. So I commend you for using that and actually building and growing from it and being able to give back, because today, before we came here to the TV studio, I was able to go and see what you were doing, and I was just like, I just love it. I love philanthropy. I love giving back, and I love highlighting people who do it, because more people need to work from the heart. Yeah. And that, to me, that's what you're doing. So let's talk about the type of work that you do.
Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed. Okay. So what I do right now is I work for a nonprofit organization. I have a hard time calling it work. Like every time I talk about it, I trip over that statement, like work for a nonprofit or run a nonprofit, because it's not. It's more than that.
Yes.
It's deeper than that. So FP Youth Outcry is Future Potential Youth Outcry, and it was the response to the community from my CEO, who felt like the community was crying out, our youth was crying out for help. And he started that community, in this June it'll be 12 years.
And what is his name again?
Al-Tariq Best.
Yes.
And I think that he has the best last name, Al-Tariq Best.
Yes.
Because Al-Tariq Best did something that was necessary.
Right.
And it was right on pulse. So what he did was he created FP Youth Outcry. And right now we're known as the hub, because the location, it is like the hub of like Newark. We're right in the Central Ward. So that's, like Central Ward, like we had to be in the middle. We had to be in the thick of it.
Yes.
And the hub is help us become better.
Yes.
And because Al-Tariq, because he used, and I said this is all gonna like come back full circle, because it's so funny, because Al-Tariq used to be a performer. He used to be a rapper. He used to be an artist. So his idea was, okay, you know what? How do I capture these kids? How do I get them in the door?
Right.
So he got them in the door with the music.
Nice.
And when we met, it was like divine intervention, because it was like we met and he had this way of capturing the youth and getting them in the door through entertainment. And then here I came along and had a way to be able to educate our youth and help them feel empowered.
That is beautiful. Oh my God. I love it. And it's, so he's from the community, you're from the community, and sometimes like I watch Insecure with Issa Rae, and she works for a nonprofit. Okay. And it's called We Got Y'all, and the people in charge of it are not of the community, but she works there because she knows how important it is for her to participate in the community. And it's like they can't really relate, but she's like, I got to be involved in this because I know how important it is. But to be of that same community and to be really giving back, to me, is bigger. It's more impactful. Yeah. I think that's important. I love it.
Our impact is, it's so important, because even with like, we have different programs. So our mission kind of goes like this. So we know that there's underserved youth in the community. Yes. We know it. And we know that the families are underserved. Yes. So now what? So what do we do? So what do we do is, our answer is, if you're underserved youth, families. We provide services, programming, and events. So you've seen our event.
Yes.
So we do these
Excellent.
events to be able to assist and motivate our community. How do we do it? Through entertainment, education, and empowerment. So we know that we're going to entertain you in everything that we do. We're going to educate you in everything that we do. And when you leave, you're going to feel empowered.
Nice. I love it. So what does FP Youth Outcry mean? What is the meaning of it?
So it's so funny because Al-Tariq, he laughs about this because he's a rapper. So everything is an acronym with him. So FP is future potential.
Okay.
Because he wanted to illustrate that he saw the future potential in our youth.
Right.
And all the potential that they have, and that the future potential was going to meet their cries. Yes. So as they cried out for help and they needed the help and they wanted to build themselves up, because that's our mantra: build up, don't tear down.
Right.
And we say that with the kids every day. Yes. We build up, we don't tear down. Mm-hmm. So that was the way to build them up. We say, hey, well, future potential meets your cries. So that's where he came up with that.
I love it. I love it because, and I believe in the fact that you may plant a seed today. Mm-hmm. They may not understand, or the seed may not germinate yet, but maybe in another 2 years. There are some plants that don't germinate for 2 years. Mm-hmm. You know, we can't always expect everything to start sprouting in 13 weeks or a year. So when we plant that seed, I tell my students, I'm planting the seed so I can help you to develop your latent genius. Mm-hmm. It may come out later, but it's real. We got to plant those seeds.
I love the way you turn a phrase. Because like that is awesome.
Thank
like
you.
Because that's what we do. It's necessary. Mm-hmm. Yes. Because even with the program that we do there, it's all ongoing.
Yes.
And it's not even, so you can't be a youth and think that you're gonna, well, you could. Mm-hmm. They don't. The way in which we capture them, they don't. Right. So even with our signature program, Rhymes for Reasons, right, the young man that runs Rhymes for Reasons right now, he's 17 years old. Wow. And he went through Rhymes for Reasons. Right. So he came back and said, hey, I want to come back. I want to serve. How do I serve my community? Can I teach them what you taught me? And that's what he does. And he gives up his free time after school, and he teaches the younger ones what we taught him.
I love it.
And and it's awesome because that's what happens.
And it's exponential giving. It's exponential growth because those who you help realize how helpful it was, and they can come back. And then as you build and grow and reach so many, then that impacts the behavior, the choices, and the community.
It does.
You know, that's important. That means you're doing it.
We're paying attention. We're trying to.
I love it.
We are intentional. I mean, I say try. Everybody says it. You're doing it. We are paying attention, and we are bringing services to our youth that are going to be able to empower them ultimately and entertain them through Rhymes for Reasons. Like I said, we had under entertainment, it's Rhymes for Reasons, which is our music program. We have an actual full music studio right there inside the hub. Nice. Which brings me to like a thought, because we are still working on donations to build out the air conditioning unit. As you know, you've been inside of a studio before, and we don't have all the cooling system that we need.
Yeah, you need that.
Yeah, so we're in the process of making donations. So if anyone is interested in making a donation, you can make a donation at donations@thehubclub.org. Nice. And that's how you can make a donation to the air conditioning and the cooling. Because our kids, right now we have 15 kids who come into that program who are learning how to, and we joked earlier about like the bars, like 8 bars, 16 bars, but they're learning what that means. Right. I learned what it meant. Right. Like even just in the setup that we were doing today, I learned what levels are from those kids, because I never really was interested in music like that. So, but I go in there because it's impacting our kids. So they were teaching me about levels and the difference in the levels for radio stations and the difference in the levels when you're in the studio. And I'm like, I didn't even know all that went into music.
Oh, definitely.
And like all I know is I'm just sitting back at home listening to the radio, and they're doing it. And
it's so funny because if you listen to a particular song on different speakers, you say, I never heard that part. I never heard that little ad-lib, woo, 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 that little extra harmony. So I used to be in the studio as a kid. So I knew what that was like, and I knew how, that lead voice on that DAT, the different 18-track studios and 42-track, depending on what the studio was capable of, that meant the fullness and the full capability of your sound and your song. Yeah. And that means a lot. You know, so it's important that the kids learn it. They think they want to be rappers, and you just doing something on your iPhone. No, you don't have that full rich sound. So there's levels to it. I love that. So speaking of levels, right? Levels to the levels. All right. So what brought you to what you're doing now at the Hub? What made you come into that? I know that you know there was a need for an impact, and that was your heart, that was your education. But what brought you to the Hub in particular?
Well, what brought me there, it was when I first met Al-Tariq, and you actually got a portion of the Hub, and you seen like the tour. And I was walking through there, and the first time I walked through, I wanted to cry.
Why?
Because I wish that there was something like that when I was growing up.
Oh, okay.
I wish that there was someone somewhere that was gonna ask the question like, what's going on? What happened? Like people always wanted to kind of like point the finger like, what is wrong with her? What's wrong with that girl?
Right.
Like she can't control herself. And nobody ever asked me, what's happening? What's happening to you? Like, they didn't know what it felt like to go home and my parents weren't there. And some days I was hungry. And that hunger led to the aggression and just being angry all the time. That it started, because I had started off being angry for so long, I didn't know how to turn back. Nobody asked.
Right.
So when I came there and he was asking the question, what's happening? How can we help?
Wow.
Are you interested in music? Let me teach you this.
Wow.
Are you interested in education? Like it's not even just the after school program, isn't just homework help. Like we do My Thoughts Out Loud. And what My Thoughts Out Loud is, and sometimes we call it MTOL. When you see the My Thoughts Out Loud and you sit inside of the program and you hear the youth and we talk about bullying and we talk about domestic violence and are they seeing it at home, and substance abuse, and being able to understand the trauma that they're going through, either vicarious trauma, direct trauma, and how it's affecting our community and how it keeps the cycle of victimization going.
Yeah.
How do we intervene? And he was asking that question. So I said, you know what? I want to stay. I want to be here. I need to do this. And in our first meeting, as a COO, I thought it was going to be all these interviews with him and then the board of directors. And he was like, no. He's like, you were supposed, he's like, I want you. He's like, I feel like this is my partnership. This is what we needed here. And he just went to the board and was like, I had to make an executive decision. He's like, because if I let her walk out of here without making her an offer, we might not get her to come back. And it did something to me too. Because then I started to really think about myself in a different light. And that's the thing that I love the most about Al-Tariq, is he has this way about being able to help people see themselves.
Oh, yes.
And without like the formal education, he gives you that.
Right. It was your worth. It was how valuable you were to the mission. And regardless of how you first were at the beginning of the interview, you probably left that interview fuller and understanding that your sentiment, your heart was so important to helping somebody who was where you were. Okay, who is where you were, rather. And I think that is beautiful. And I think a lot of times people just go get jobs, like you said. Like I teach high school, and it's a pleasure. So you're like, I don't even like to call it work. You go in there and you do what you do. I get to talk about history all day. You know, it's such a beautiful thing. So I want to ask you, what makes your organization different from other grassroots organizations, like based on your mission and things?
Well, because like we meet the youth where they are. We're not trying to make them be something else. We meet them right there. Right. Like if you say, this is where I'm at, this is what the levels I'm on, this is where, and we accept you just as you are. Like when you come to the MTOLs, there's no judgment, it's all you. As youth ran, there's social workers in the room, there's counselors in the room, but we all know that there's no judgment. Right. And if we feel like they need more, we refer more. Right. And we have referral sources right inside. Beautiful. Where we have licensed clinical social workers, educators who are there, who are trauma informed, who are asking the questions and being able to say, hey, let's have a conversation.
I love it.
Hey, what's happening? So what makes us different is that we know that we could be the template of what community organizations can look like across the country in other high violent, high crime areas like Chicago, Detroit.
They need help.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I think that we can, this model of the way in which, like opening the kids up inside the MTOL.
It can be replicated.
Everywhere, and that's the goal.
I love that.
We do too.
I love it. So tell me about the 3 pillars of the hub.
So
how you can replicate this. What are the pillars, the firm standards?
Firm standards: entertain, educate, and empower.
Right, and you mentioned that one earlier. And that, see, one thing I tell people, you got to get them in the door.
Yeah, so we get them in through entertainment. But they know that even with the entertainment, we educate you.
Right.
So you don't get to come in and just say, I want to lay down tracks. No, so we do we do music appreciation, artist development, and we do like youth television, film, and press. So you think that you can come in and be like, oh, I want to be a photographer, where's the camera? No.
Right.
No, you got to learn what the camera looks like. So we're educating you at the same time.
How to operate the camera. So let me ask you this. How would one get involved in a hub? Like, what's the exact, I know you're in the Central Ward, what's the exact location, and what kinds of things can people do to get involved in the hub?
So we are located 135 Prince Street, Newark, New Jersey, and the Central Ward, and we're on the lower level. So you'll see our banners when you pull up. We're centrally located, and if you want to volunteer, you can go to our website, which is thehubclub.org. You can sign up to be a volunteer. You can see all our upcoming events. You can even see when the MTOLs are coming, because we keep the calendar up to date. So even when the MTOLs are coming, if we're having, like today we have the Christmas give back, holiday give back, you can see that on our website. You can even see pictures from our impact over the years, like how many times we've done it, our Thanksgiving, the Easter. So we do something to make sure that the kids always have something to do. Even if they feel like they can't go home right at that moment, they can still come in. Even if they're hungry and it's not regular operation times, we'll still try to figure something out to make sure that you're eating.
Wow, that is great. Because, food insecurity in our communities is a big thing. Although, people may get food stamps, or, with the new legislation, a lot of people were cut off from it. The hunger in the kids, some kids are just hungry all the time. They need to eat all the time. They need access. I think that's a beautiful thing. How does one donate to the hub? Because I know you said you find a way, and there are a lot of organizations that like to, like, for example, I've partnered with Joyce Angels in East Orange, and they give away so much food, so many snacks. So, how would you do a partnership to get that food or those snacks?
Yes, so if you want to make a financial donation, you can go to donations@thehubclub.org. If you want to make a food donation, like a food pantry, you could come in, or you can email me or Mr. Best. So my
email, yes.
I got D Williamson is DWILLIAMSON at thehubclub.org. Or if you want something shorter, you can email Al-Tariq, so it's ABEST at thehubclub.org. His is easier. Mine is way too long.
But it's okay.
It'll work.
Both work. I love what you do. There's an illumination that exudes from you. Your aura is beautiful, and I think that's important as human beings, that our aura is illuminated and that we are a light in whatever we do. That's so important, and I think that if more people would find that light within themselves and allow it to be exposed, I think we all can just do better and be better. I think it's about improving. It's about progress. It's about productivity. I'm all into that. So what is the hub 3 to 5 year goal?
So over the next 3 to 5 years, right now, like I said, we have those programs, our signature programs, but we're transitioning MTOL into being able, my thoughts out loud, and being able to respond to trauma. So like I said, we had the social workers there. Now we're answering the call for trauma. So we had the individual group counseling, and we're bringing the first trauma recovery center to the state of New Jersey. So over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to build out our empowerment center, where we're going to be able to give counseling services and mental health services to a population that usually doesn't reach out.
Wow.
The African American population is least likely to receive or even ask for mental health services than any other population. And the fact that we're right in the middle of Newark, right in the thick of it, in the central ward, bringing the Trauma Recovery Center, bringing that conversation about trauma and helping them walk through their healing journey. Because we're not going to walk it for you, but we will definitely walk it with you.
You know, it's so funny that historically as African Americans, because of what we've endured, you know, many times we're told, suck it up, you gotta suck it up. We don't have time to suffer from mental health issues.
Exactly.
We don't have time to be depressed. We have to work through depression. We have to suffer through depression. We have to fight through depression and mental illnesses and different things. And it, as I said, it's such a stigma that we don't seek the help and the counseling to help us to move forward, because we end up in a spiral. And we end up, you know, not fixing ourselves, you know, and there's so many ways to do it. I love the counseling. You know I fixed myself with a book called What Mama Couldn't Tell Us About Love.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Now I have to read that.
That book, I bought about 15 different copies. After I read it myself, I bought it for my friends. I said, you have to read this, because that book was therapy for me. It helped me to understand and realize some of the things, you know, just in our community. Sometimes we get tired. We have to let ourselves get tired. Because I worked myself to the bone. I worked myself in 2013 until my body just stopped. And I have to learn that even though I'm a superwoman, sometimes I have to know that I'm a human.
Yeah. But that type of activity is like multi-generational.
It is.
And because it goes on from generation to generation, that we haven't learned how to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because
I don't like to ask anybody for anything.
But it's the community.
I do it myself. Right.
But the community has taught us that.
Yes.
Because we're so afraid to be vulnerable.
Yes.
That we don't give a chance to be vulnerable, because we're afraid that you're going to make me be a victim.
Right.
Because I've allowed you to see me being vulnerable.
Right.
And we're so afraid to be victimized again.
Yeah.
And again, that we don't know how to let our guards down to even just our fellow man inside of our community. So how do we answer that? That's again, it's always the way in which we do that at FP. Is that how do we answer that? How do we allow our youth to be vulnerable? How do we allow our mothers that come in to be vulnerable? Our fathers to be vulnerable? How can you talk about child support? How can we talk about welfare? So it's definitely it's a deeper conversation, because
so deep. The whole dynamic is deep.
Because we've been there.
Yes, and it's about trust. You know, as a child, you learn not to trust. Like, I had to learn how to trust dogs, because my cousin got bitten in the head by a Great Dane. So I was so terribly afraid of all dogs that, you know, but I love dogs. I have a grandpuppy. Yes, I said grandpuppy, Lulu. And so I never thought I could love a dog so much. But we have to learn to trust each other. We have to learn to trust ourselves. And I think the best way for our community to get help and to move forward is for us to trust each other and be trusting and to be loving. And I just want to ask you, is there one final word you would like to give us before we get ready to sound off?
Yeah. Well, as always, just ask for Denisah. I love FP. I love Youth Outcry. I love the hub. But like I tell my daughters, like I tell the kids that I work with, I want you to be safe.
Yes.
But I want you to be able to motivate and inspire others. I want this to be the experience that makes you want to give it forward and push it forward.
Right.
So it's like that. If nothing else, I want to be able to teach our youth how to motivate and inspire others to make the community that we want to see.
And pay it forward.
Yes, always pay it forward.
And let me ask you real quick. Is it only Newark youth, or do you do Essex County?
We do. We are based in Newark. We will take any kids from any other area. But we've only worked right now with Newark. So not a lot of people don't want to commute to us.
Yes.
But as we are building out our program, we are looking into transportation to service the rest of the area in Essex County.
I just want to thank Denisah Williamson for coming on. Amazing, amazing, amazing guest.
I can't believe it was that quick.
I was. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in to We the Village.